Over the past few months, I've been pushing the 3D Mario games to their limit to see just how many stars, shines, and moons that a regular human could get. Today we'll be asking a similar question, but for the Zelda series. I want to find out just how possible it would be for an average human to complete the Great Plateau in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, before we get things going, let's lay out a few rules for this challenge. First off, I will be allowing myself to use the Sheikah Slate in reasonable ways, including the special abilities. However, my human limitations are still going to apply to my usage of those abilities. For example, I could summon an ice pillar, but I couldn't climb it, given that there's nowhere to grip. Similarly, I could summon bombs, but I may not be able to throw them as far as Link could. There's plenty more to discuss on this, but you'll see that throughout the video. Second, I'll be limited to humanly reasonable movement and endurance. That means that I won't be scaling smooth, flat cliff sides or surviving boulders straight to the face, but this could also benefit me, given that severe cold weather likely wouldn't kill me in mere seconds. Finally, we're going to be considering Link's height to be 5 feet and 2 inches. As far as I could find across the internet, that's the most agreed upon consensus, and the Bread Pirate has a solid video defending it. That means we'll have a good reference for how tall objects actually are. Without further ado though, let's go! Starting off with a solid start, I too can wake up in my underwear, so there's nothing too problematic here. Grabbing the Sheikah Slate, we head into the next chamber to find a couple chests. Rather than kicking them though, I'd probably just open them normally, so that's 1 point for me being smarter than Link. Clothed up and scanning the slate again, we finally reach our first true challenge of the video, this menacing rock. Looking at myself sized up next to it, it's probably only about 10 feet tall, so really not a huge deal. Especially with this giant crack on the left side, there's more than one way that we could manage to pull ourselves up and out of here. Walking out and taking a deep breath of the wildlands, it's time to start our journey. Heading down the nearby hill, I unceremoniously attempted to grab some apples. It's been years since I've played this game, I'm sorry. And then talked to the old man nearby, who, spoiler alert, is actually King Rome Bossforama's Hyrule. Would he help me if I was just a normal guy? Maybe not, but I'd like to imagine he's pretty chill and wouldn't mind giving me a bit of assistance at least. With our first objective received, we jogged our way over to the base of the Great Plateau Tower. I did ultimately just run past the bokoblins and some slime monsters, even though I could probably beat them in a fight. I have to imagine fighting a bokoblin would be pretty similar to me just wrestling some random guy, so I'd probably win that, but better safe than sorry, why risk it? Once at the base of the tower, it was just a simple scan and boom! We're now suddenly hundreds of feet in the air, listening to the voices in my head once again. This may seem like a really bad predicament, but we've got an easy way back down. Using the platforms they give us, we can just slowly climb, piece by piece, until making our way to the bottom since these do seem like really climbable walls. Just lots and lots of really funky ladders. After what felt like ages, there we finally go. Once on the ground floor, it's just an easy jog around the lake and we're officially at our first shrine. Heading inside, it's time to talk about our first ability, Magnesis. Originally, I was unsure if I was even going to allow this, but really it does seem pretty plausible. It's not Link's strength that's lifting or moving these heavy objects, it's the power of the slate itself. As long as I could hold and move the magnet around, I could seemingly lift anything just like Link can. As a fun alternative though, I could probably climb these poles to get over this gate instead, but given that that's pretty unnecessary, let's just take the safe route. Once in the next room, we're met with another important question. How does Magnesis work when it comes to moving other objects? By swinging around this metal cube, I'm able to completely push and shove these giant stone ones. That means that I'm applying hundreds of pounds of force by simply just walking forward. Again, it feels a bit wrong, but given that Link can't apply that much force by himself just walking into the stone, we have to conclude that the Magnesis itself is what allows us to defy physics here. With that seemingly acceptable, we can move on to our first real fight. Given that I don't have any weapons aside from this stick, we've got to be a little bit more creative. Using Magnesis, we can easily just pick up these metal cubes to drop them on the little guy. Sure, he's cute, but that's not going to save him. I could have played this a bit smoother, but the point does still stand, it wouldn't be too hard to take him out. Also, on retrospection, I could have just shoved him off or attacked him from behind the stones by pushing them up, so there's multiple ways we could have done this with for sure safety. Once through, the final bit is just crossing a gap by moving this bridge, opening the doors, and boom, we're here. No insane parkour, no unrealistic fights, just a smooth ride to the end to complete our first shrine. Heading back outside, it is unfortunately night, but that's okay. By just pretending like all my problems don't exist and continuing to run forward, everything ends up a-okay. The next shrine we're headed to is located in some of the old ruins on the east side of the plateau, surrounded by broken down guardians, or I should say, mostly broken down guardians. It's a pretty straightforward jog to get there all things considered, and going in from behind we got right up to the guy. The only issue though, is that this wall would be around 10 to 12 feet tall. Now honestly it does seem climbable enough, but if you're iffy on it, there's definitely another way to do this. Entering from the front instead, we can mosey on in, hide behind these pillars to avoid the guardian's line of sight, and just casually make our way up this pile of insanely climbable looking boulders. Once on top, we could hang off the edge and drop down, making this a significantly more accessible way. Truthfully though, either one would probably work, and we successfully made it to the Headed down into the shrine, we're once again tasked with answering another big question. How on earth is this ability going to work for us? Now, in terms of summoning and detonating the bombs, I'm all good with that. I'm mainly just unsure of how much they weigh and how far I could throw them. We know that Link, while twinkish in size, is a monster when it comes to strength, meaning that these could weigh a lot if this is as far as he can throw them. At the same time though, he's probably limiting his throw distance, and given that these are magical blue cubes, they could weigh as much as foam for all we know. In short, I'm going to assume that I could throw them, but just for the fun of it, we'll try to do the shrine avoiding throwing as much as possible. I took my time dropping the bombs in the right place, going back for cover, and detonating them from a safe distance, since we don't want to blow out any eardrums. This really didn't change the gameplay too much though, and we just continued on like normal. Even this room with the floating platform was great, since that platform hand-delivered our bomb and allowed us to get even further away from the detonation. In the final room, the only real puzzle was just setting our bomb on this platform, and like that, the ladder's open. We could definitely stand on this platform over here to try to shoot ourselves toward the chest, but given that I'd rather not have my limbs crushed or broken by the impact, we'll go ahead and skip that part for now. Headed up the ladder, we've successfully claimed our second orb. Leaving the shrine, we used our new, safe bombing technique to make our way out of the ruins and toward the far-off mountains. Narrowly avoiding this insane snipe by the Guardian, we made our merry way toward the temple. While I considered getting to this shrine from the classic route by climbing the mountainside, I assumed that without the mountain climbing gear, it would be legitimately impossible for the average person, so to the snow region we go. This is probably where I make the most controversial claim of the video, but bear with me. In this area, Link loses half a heart every 10 seconds due to the cold, meaning that he would die in 1 minute. Don't get me wrong, I respect the dude, but that is being a huge baby. Sure, eventually the cold would get to us, but I'm not dropping dead in a minute from being out here. If I can make it to the shrine in a reasonable amount of time, even like 10 minutes, I would be a-okay. While I could try eating peppers like Link does to stay warm, I don't feel like they'd have the same effect on a regular human, or if they do, I'd rather not raise my core temperature and melt my brain. I don't even need them, so let's not worry about them. Doing a bit of cooking off camera to actually film this segment, we headed off and up the mountainside. The pathway itself would be tedious for sure, having to trudge through the somewhat deep snow most of the way up, but that's really our only big issue aside from the small cliffside standing in our path. I took some time to explore alternate routes, but ultimately decided the most plausible way to do this was just by climbing up the sloped region to the top. Alternatively, we could take a bit more time to pile some snow in this alleyway, since that would let us start climbing a bit higher off the ground. Between the two though, I imagine either one could work, but this one probably easier. The only other problem I really ran into was some keys, but just a standard jogging speed is enough to keep pace with them, so I don't see these being an issue for me to stay away from. Eventually they lose interest, and we could just keep spiraling up the mountain. Reaching the top, I realized two things. First off, I had completely forgotten where this shrine was, since it wasn't here, but at least the old man was, so we can get a tunic. It literally only took us 3 minutes and 30 seconds to get up here as well, so I have no problem claiming that we can definitely get up here, even giving like 6 or 7 minutes of leeway. Second, Link is absolutely being a baby. This tunic is all it takes to resist the cold up here, and this thing is pretty thin, meaning we are absolutely good as a person going for a while. Seeing this shrine location from here, I headed back down the spiraling pathway, and in less than 3 minutes, we were there at... Assuming I am still pretty dang cold though, let's go ahead and head inside to warm ourselves up. Gearing ourselves up for our next ability, we've got the Ice Rune. I mentioned this at the start of the video, but I do feel comfortable in saying that we can use it as intended, as long as we don't actually attempt to climb the ice walls. This shouldn't be a huge issue though, since we can easily activate it right under our feet, successfully clearing the first obstacle, as well as the second, which literally just required summoning one at the gate. We had another guardian to deal with. With some good dodging and well-placed ice pillars though, we could easily trap this thing in a way that it can't get to us, so no fight even necessary. Stepping onto the platform and summoning one more pillar, we are good to go. I think my biggest takeaway so far is how little the Great Plateau actually requires of the player when it comes to movement or fighting. Sure, exploration is encouraged, and I'd be way more kitted out if I took my time doing side activities, but none of them are really required. The shrines just want to show you how the abilities work, meaning that Link's physical prowess is kind of a non-factor. Orb acquired, let's head to the final shrine. Going back down this hill, we literally just went on a really long straight walk along the back edge of the Great Plateau. No danger, nothing crazy, just walking. The only substantial obstacle we faced here was right in the face of the shrine. Ending on this elevated segment, the only way down to the shrine is by navigating our way safely off of this upper region. Again, I'm not some insanely skilled climber like Link, most people aren't, I'm just a guy, so we've got to weigh our options. Going down the front side, you can see that this is a really high edge, with effectively nothing to grab onto. There's a chance that I could drop down and try to roll to cushion my fall, but even with some snow there, I see the drop onto the rocks as being pretty horrific. Alternatively, I took a look at the side of the shrine and saw this pretty handy crack. Although the segment itself is a bit taller, I could see myself shimmying my way down, using my hands and feet to lock myself in place as I slowly slid. It would be really difficult, and I may fall and break something, but honestly, as long as we get down alive, I'd be pretty happy. That'll take us into our final shrine. And given that I'm having rocks thrown at me, let's go ahead and head inside. Getting our last ability, we've successfully unlocked Stasis. And of all of the abilities this far, it's probably the easiest one to use. Literally just point the slate at an object and... The first bridge was super easy to cross, and the rolling boulders weren't a challenge either. By just waiting for one to pass, jogging up, and freezing the incoming one, we could completely avoid all of the issues. The final challenge came with this stagnant boulder, where the game wants to teach us about compiled force. If we were to solve this the intentional way, I do believe I could swing the sledgehammer at least 2 to 3 times with full force, definitely not to Link's caliber, but still substantially. However, I don't see my 2 to 3 swings absolutely launching this, given that one hit from me wouldn't even move it. So, the alternative route is also pretty clear. By hanging off the ledge and shimmying past this rock, we could get to the other side and then pull ourselves up. Especially with the corner being so close to the other side, it would be significantly easier to climb back up than just on a flat edge. We'll just be sure to drop the metal sledgehammer before dangling over the endless pit. And with that taken care of, the final shrine is complete. All things considered, these really gave us no true issues, which is a bit of a surprise, but mainly a relief. The last thing now is to make our way to the... Leaving the final shrine, I did kind of forget about the fact that we can't just warp down to the mainland. We've actually got to find a way to safely get there. As much as I can get behind using the abilities, I can't get behind straight up warping, so let's find a way to get ourselves down here. Truthfully, we only have 2 options. We can either find a way to get down this cliffside, or we can climb back up the crack in the wall to circle our way safely down from the top of the mountain. Frankly, neither is ideal, but in favor of reality, I'm leaning toward the drop-off. By hanging down and sliding off this specific corner, we could hug the wall, reach the slope, and roll down into the snow. We'd definitely get injured, maybe some bad bruising, and maybe a severely twisted ankle, but I'm looking for if we could complete the plateau, not survive it in perfect health. Climbing our way further down, there really aren't any other obstacles to avoid. It's just a straightforward path retracing our steps until we reach the temple. Once inside, we've got ourselves a heart container and have one final task: climb the temple and reach the old man. Thankfully, there's a ladder here, so we can avoid any more stupid parkour shenanigans and just make our way up. Once up the ladder, we carefully climbed this insanely steep roof, but with how many items and ledges there are to grab, I do see it as fully doable, meaning that we're here. After letting the old guy ramble a ton about random exposition that doesn't pertain to me at all, we officially got our paraglider and gained the ability to leave this elevated prison. Soaring down, I felt the air in my hair as I embraced my newfound freedom. And that's officially it. Aside from a few hiccups here and there, I feel confident in claiming the Great Plateau as beatable by an average human. Although I'm planning to work on Mario Galaxy next, don't worry, I'm absolutely planning on coming back to Breath of the Wild much more. Currently, my plan is to do a video on each region with the corresponding divine beasts and eventually ending up at Hyrule Castle. Additionally, I'll be making a supercut with all of them together, including any potential changes coming from your guys' feedback in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Additionally, I've got a lot more videos in the same genre, so feel free to check them out if you want to.